Welcome back. Now today I want to show you a very special funk beat called the Funky Drummer. Now the Funky Drummer is a recording made by James Brown, and on drums is a gentleman named Clyde Stubblefield. Clyde Stubblefield, because of this groove he played on this recording of Funky Drummer, he is pretty much now pretty well known as the Funky Drummer. Because this beat was just so special. It's so special, in fact, it's probably considered the most sampled beat that's ever been used. Sampling is when a DJ or somebody takes an existing recording of a piece of music and uses it in their recording to create a new beat or a new groove. And this is one of those beats that has gotten around so much that it's worth learning because it's an extremely funky, extremely challenging beat to learn, but it uses a lot of skills to put together. So we're going to break it down and learn how to play it today. Let's start with hi-hat first. I like to break beats down, especially long and complicated beats like this. I like to break them down piece by piece, and we'll start with the hi-hat. The hi-hat part I really like because it's got some open hi-hat in a place that I've never heard before. It's on the second 16th note of every second beat. So let me play the open hi-hat part, the full 16th note hi-hat part for you now, very slowly, and I'll count myself in so you know exactly where I'm at. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and So 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and it's on those E notes. So we'll leave hi-hat for a minute now. We'll talk about snare drum. What I'd like to do is play the full snare drum pattern, which is made up of the backbeat on the 2 and the 4, a nice solid rim shot, as well as the ghost notes. Now the ghost note pattern is a little bit too complicated to explain by mouth, so what I'll do is play the snare drum and hi-hat pattern together without the bass drum, and I'll keep the hi-hat closed so we can just listen to the snare drum ghost notes. I'll play it nice and slow. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and And with the open hi-hat now on those second 16th notes of every second beat. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and So you may have noticed that after every backbeat on the 2 and the 4 on the snare drum, that's when that little hi-hat splash occurs. So you get that effect, dum dum bass, dum 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 bass, dum dum bass, dum dum bass, and that's what makes this beat so funky, I think. Let's do the same thing now with the bass drum. We'll take away the snare drum and just focus on hi-hat and bass drum together. Again, I'll leave out the open hi-hat note, so we'll play all closed hi-hat just with the bass drum rhythm. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and Okay, let's build it up just a little bit now we'll take that basic hi-hat and bass drum groove and just add the backbeat on the 2 and the 4 of the snare drum. So closed hi-hat, all closed, full bass drum pattern, and just the backbeat on the snare drum. Here we go. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Okay, now let's keep the hi-hat closed again, but add in the snare drum ghost notes, or grace notes if you prefer to call them grace notes. So again, closed hi-hat, just keep the left foot pressed firmly into the pedal to keep it simple. Full bass drum pattern, full snare drum pattern now, including very soft ghost notes and that loud sort of cracking backbeat. And keep the tempo slow. This is a very complicated beat. If it's feeling difficult, you're probably just going too fast, because this hi-hat pattern does lock in the beat nicely, only if you can keep the tempo slow enough that your brain can lock in with it as well. So keep the tempo slow. Here we go. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Okay, one more exercise that we'll try before we put everything together, and that is the full hi-hat pattern now with the open hi-hat splash. Backbeat only, so we'll take away the snare drum ghost notes, just have the backbeat on 2 and 4, and we will have the full bass drum pattern. So this is just trying a different way of putting almost all the parts together before we try the whole lot together. So again, full hi-hat pattern, just backbeat on 2 and 4, and the full bass drum pattern. Here we go. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. So beat 4 of this beat is probably the trickiest, where you've got that 4 E and a with that open hi-hat note and a bass drum stroke on the same 16th note, where your left foot has to open the hi-hat and your right foot has to strike the bass drum. So one foot going up, one foot going down, and then closing again on the appropriate beat. That's probably the trickiest part of this beat. So once you've mastered that, I think you'll be doing quite all right. Let's put it all together now. Snare drum ghost notes will come back in. So ghost notes, backbeat, full bass drum part, full open hi-hat part. Here we go. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Okay, and that's it, the funky drummer beat. So I hope you've enjoyed this lesson, and I'll see you on the next one.